Hi, and welcome to Berry Aftercare. I am feeling like I am back and ready to roll. So it's been a month of a lot of coughing and like everybody else, not feeling completely up to par. But here we are back on track. And tonight I'm going to be talking about something that I think is critical to everyone who wants to reach and maintain their goal of living at a healthy weight for their body and maintaining that healthy weight. So it's not about just getting to that weight, but it's also maintaining that weight. So welcome. I'm Dr. Connie Stapleton. So excited to be with you. And let's get started tonight with our topic, focus on the process in order to reach your goals. So here's what I'm going to talk about tonight, the difference between goals and the process, and why using one or both is good and which is better, and the reasons why. Then I'm going to talk about some examples of programs or systems that use different processes or systems and show the importance of using those to reach your goals. So let's get started and figure out what this business of processes or systems is, how it relates to your very aftercare lifestyle. That was kind of a mouthful there for a minute. And what you can do to practice this business of having a process. All right, so let's talk about what's the difference between goals and a process. So let me do it by saying when you have goals, and I know that as having had weight loss, regardless of how you lost that weight, you have a goal to get to your healthiest weight for your body and to keep that weight off. Another goal is to live a better quality of life. So you want to have improved health, you want to have a better quality of life. But in order to do that, you know that you need to keep the weight off. So if you're focusing on a goal, the question might be, what is it you want? Well, I said that just a minute ago in the following or in the previous couple of sentences. So when you choose to have bariatric surgery or you choose to lose weight, from a medically supervised diet, the goal is to lose the weight. Hopefully, the goal is also to keep the weight off because, as many of you have experienced, a lot of times you're able to lose the weight, but you have difficulty keeping the weight off. So, if I ask the question, what is it you want? That's your goal. I want improved health. I want a better quality of life. And the process by doing that answers the question, how is it you're going to get there? So let me give you a couple of examples. Let's say that you want a college degree, right? So the question that answers what your goal is, what is your goal here in returning to school? Well, I want a college degree. Well, what do you want the college degree for? What is it you want? These are answering what is your goal? Well, I want to get a job, and one of the requirements for the kind of job that I want is a degree. So those are your goals. Your goal is to get the degree because you want the job that requires this particular degree. If I say to you, how are you going to get that degree? What is the process by which you are going to get that degree? That's a question that's going to tell me what is the process by which you will obtain that goal. So you can have a vague answer, which is not going to be very helpful in the long run. Well, I'm going to, sign up for classes. When you talk about the process that's going to get you to your goal, when it's in relation to obtaining a degree, it's making a list of all the classes that I need to have, signing up for those classes in a sequential order. So I'm going to plan out my semester class by class. I have to have a roadmap. Then I'm going to break it down further. And in this current semester, I've got these 4 classes. And in order to pass these 4 classes, the process is going to be reading for 45 minutes a day, doing homework for an hour and a half each day, going through my syllabus every day to make sure I'm on track. So it's what can I check off today? This is my process. This will keep me in line to reach my goal, which is 4 or 5 years down the road when it comes to a college degree. I'm sure that makes sense to you. So when you have weight loss surgery or you join a medically supervised weight loss program, and I say, what is it you want? I want to get this weight off and I want to keep it off. So when I say to you, how are you going to get there? Well, I'm going to do what they tell me to do. That tells me nothing. And how are you going to check that off at the end of the day? So there's a process by which you reach your goal. And there's a lot of science that indicates that if you develop a process and you tweak that process by figuring out what works for you the best, you have a better likelihood of achieving your goal. Because the goal could be, the goal of getting down to a healthy weight for your body could take a year, it could take 2 years, it could take 3 years, depending on your method of weight loss. So that's a very long-term goal. And if that's all I'm going by and don't have a process by which I'm going to get there, it might be kind of difficult to actually reach that goal because I might lose patience, I might get frustrated. Or if you work in a factory and you're assembling, I don't care what it might be an electric toothbrush, it might be a car engine. There is a process. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. There may be 35 steps in that process before that toothbrush is a complete toothbrush. And if you don't have every step in that process completed, you're going to end up with something that's not exactly an electric toothbrush, right? So it's important to have a process, meaning these are the steps I'm going to take to get there. So part of the struggle, I think, for post-ops or for people attempting to maintain weight is they don't have a process. They just have the goal. They know what they want, but they haven't established how they're going to reach the goal and maintain the goal. So I want to really stress to you that in order to get to a healthier weight for your body and in order to maintain that healthier weight for your body, you've got to have a process and you need to break it down into things that you can do and see each and every single day. And that's why so much science points to the process, the system that you have in place is more important than the actual goal because you're probably not going to reach that goal unless you have a process. So, of course, we're going to talk about what is the process for a post-op or a person working to achieve weight loss and maintain the weight loss. So, let's talk about the reasons for focusing on the process. Obviously, it's because you're going to get better results, right? But let's talk about the reasons why you're going to get better results than just looking at the long-term goal, all right? When you have a process, today I will do A, B, C, D, and E. This is my process. You focus, you put mindful energy. What am I doing today? The task at hand in this moment. What are the concrete behaviors that I can do that are 100% within my control? Because if I'm looking 2 to 3 to 4 years out, when I'm talking about maintaining a healthy weight, what can I do that is 3 years from now? Nothing. But I can do something today. I can do 5 or 6 things today that will lead me to and almost guarantee that I reach that goal. So if I have something specific today, or maybe 4 somethings or 6 somethings that I can look at and go, okay, check that one off. I feel good about it. Then I have something in hand, in my focus within this day, which is really all I have, that I can control. We'll talk about what those things are in just a minute. Now, I can tweak that process along the way. So if I find out that I'm setting aside, you know, an hour for exercise, and I find that I'm really crunched to fit that full hour in, I might go, you know what? I'm learning that that is too much time to set on that particular part of the process. So, in order for me to actually do it and find success in that, I'm going to dial it back, at least for now, to 30 minutes. And then you go along and you can reassess your process and go, you know what, that has worked so much better for me. Or maybe it's, I want to get that hour in, but I don't have a solid block of an hour to do it. So maybe I'll do 20 minutes in the morning. I'll take a 20-minute walk at lunchtime, and I'll do resistance bands for 20 minutes in the evening while I'm watching my favorite TV show. You can tweak your process to get in all of the pieces of the process as you're going through, as you find out what works and what doesn't work. So you can make the process work for you. And as you make the process work for you see consistent results. You may not see the number on the scale as a result, as a change every single day, but you can look at your list of parts of the process and know that you are definitely on the road toward meeting the long term goals. So you can see successes every single day by looking at the steps to the system, to the process, right? People do this all the time without paying a lot of attention to it. Like you've got a morning routine. It might be get out of bed, go to the bathroom, grab a cup of coffee, jump in the shower, spend a few minutes reading, do a meditation or a prayer, brush your teeth, get dressed. Whatever your things are, you do them because you've developed these habits. Now, we all know that as a post-op, you've got to develop these habits that become your way of life. Your system that you develop, this process that will lead you to your long term goals, is actually what you do to develop these habits. But they have to become something that you're aware of as you go through. So you might need a little checklist before these are established habits. Once they're habits, you don't need a checklist anymore when you get out of bed in the morning to know the things you do before you head off to work. But maybe you have a kindergartner and you make them a little checklist with pictures so that they know when they get out of bed, you make a picture of them brushing their teeth. You make a picture of them putting their clothes on. You make a picture of them eating their breakfast. And they can look and they will establish habits by looking at their checklist. That's their process. This is what you do as well as you develop the habits that are going to lead to your long term success. All right, but one of the benefits is seeing these consistent rewards every day. You get to put little gold stars on your checklist, on your process. And when you do that, it answers a question that a lot of people have. How do I maintain motivation? Every time you put a check by your box of the steps on your process or in your system, you're increasing your motivation because it feels good to say, dang, I am proud of myself for doing what I said I was going to do today. I am proud of myself for doing the majority of the steps in my system today. Most of the things that are in my process. It's not about perfection, but it's about developing these processes, these systems, all right? So, seeing those consistent checklist improves your motivation and it reduces that feeling of being overwhelmed, right? Because you could come up with 50 things you need to do every single day to get to your goal of maintaining weight loss. But if you break it down into 4 or 5 things, it's a whole lot more manageable and you don't have to worry about all of these things. You've got a process. And all you have to do today, which will help keep you from getting way overwhelmed, is focus on the 5 little boxes that are today. It's a really, really great way to live your life and develop these habits because before long, these are just going to be this is my way of life. This is my way of life. just like your morning routine is or your nighttime routine. All right, so that long-term goal of getting to a healthier weight, that long-term goal of maintaining that weight can take a really long time, and it can lead to discouragement. And this is something that trips post-ops up a lot. They get discouraged. They don't feel motivated. But if you have a few daily wins, you have a sense of satisfaction along the way. So you maintain that hopefulness, and you're doing the things that are going to get you to where you say you want to be without that feeling of overwhelmed, without that feeling of 25,000 things you have to do. And the long-term benefits are eventually getting to that weight, maintaining that weight, earning the degree, getting the job promotion, whatever it is that says, what is it I want? That's the goal. By focusing on what is it I have to do each and every day in order to get there? Goals and processes. As a post-op, it will serve you well to focus on the process, to develop a system. Process and system, same thing. All right, let me tell you about a couple of examples of how this works. As most of you know, I have been in a 12-step recovery program for well over 30 years. And in all of the 12-step recovery programs, one of the slogans, and there are many, one of the slogans is trust the process. So at the end of a support group meeting, a lot of times people will gather in a group and they'll say, trust the process. It works if you work it. It won't if you don't. So when it comes to the 12 steps, the process is the 12 steps, right? And they are placed in an order of how to do them. So as you work through the 12 steps with sponsors, with mentors, with helpers, you complete these steps. And then when you've worked through the steps, there's kind of a daily checklist. Did I make amends? Did I take a daily inventory? Did I accept things that were my responsibility today? Did I, As a bariatric patient, as a post-op, you can say to yourself, trust the process. Your bariatric professionals have given you a process to use to ensure that if you use it, you will reach your goals. So just like the 12 steps say, we all in the bariatric professional community say to you, trust the process. It works if you work it. It won't if you don't. So what is the process for a post-op? Well, you know what it is because you've learned it. You've heard me say it 1,000 times. But when it comes to your eating process, your bariatric nutritionist will tell you eat every so often. That's the beginning of your process. If they say eat every 3 hours, then you eat every 3 hours. If they say eat 3 meals a day, then you eat 3 meals a day. If they say eat 3 meals and 2 snacks, then that's what you do. That is your process. They will outline it very specifically for you. The next part of that eating process is start with protein. As a bariatric patient for the rest of your life, this is your process. Eat at these intervals. Start with protein. Eat at these intervals. Start with protein. That's your eating process. Then you add your fruits and your vegetables, right? If you do that eating process for the rest of your life, it leads you to what you say you want. It leads you to your goals. The eating process, which is spelled out for you, leads you to your goals. The process is something you can focus on today. Set my timer. Eat at this time. Eat protein first. Follow up with fruit. Follow up with vegetables. Now, does that mean you're going to live by that 100% of the time forevermore? No, there's room for a little wiggle room, right? But if you're following this process the majority of the time, because it's not about perfection, it's about progress and sticking with the process. Here's the beauty of this eating process. It's dictated, it's spelled out for you. There's no guessing, there's no question. You don't have to go, what do I do? It's been told to you. So do yourself a favor and write out your eating process on your phone so that when you get confused or feel like you've never been told this, which you have, pull it out and look at it. My eating process is eat every 4 hours or 5 hours or whatever you're told. Start with protein. Then have a fruit or a vegetable. Then twice a day have your serving of starch. Whatever's been told to you to do, you figure out the system by which you're going to do that, right? And then you do it. And you can say, wow, I ate every 4 hours today per my system, per my process. Wow, I ate protein first. 3 out of the 4 eating situations. That's really good. I'm really impressed with myself. Or if your job dictates that every 3 hours won't work, but every 4.5 hours would, then talk to your dietitian and say, how can I rearrange my system? You can tweak your system so that it works given my schedule, so that I can eat at planned intervals and make sure that at your job, you have sources of protein. At your home, you have sources of protein. Make it work. Set it up so that you follow the system. And that's what you have to do. There's not a lot of thinking about that involved, right? You don't have to worry or stress or get overwhelmed with food choices. Make sure you've got protein available for you wherever you're at. And then make sure, you take a piece of fruit with you or have a protein bar with you or make sure there's a protein drink at work. So you have available sources of protein. All right, so that's the eating process. What else do you need to do to reach your goal of getting to a healthy weight and maintaining that weight? You've got to move your body. So, as part of your process, as part of your system, figure out when during the day you can schedule in movement. And it can be some here, some there, it can be all at one time, whatever works for you. And then you figure out what kind of movement you hate the least or you enjoy the most, however works for you. Maybe you like to run, maybe you like to walk, maybe you like to do chair yoga, maybe you like to do dance class, maybe you like to, maybe your mobility requires that you sit in a chair. And so you do videos that show chair stretches or lifting hand weights, or you do a video that uses the stretching belts, the resistance bands, whatever works for you. You don't have to get overwhelmed by it. You plan out your system so that you can look and go, okay, time to eat. This is what I choose. This is my protein. This is my fruit. This is my starch, whatever it is. Okay. So, I have to exercise. So, this is what works for me this week. And you put it into your system. Drinking the water, however that fits into your system. And we'll talk more about the bariatric system in just a minute. But I want to give you another amazing example. If you haven't read the book Atomic Habits, James Clear is the author, and he talks so much about the importance of systems. Let me tell you some of what he writes in his book, and this you will relate to. He actually has this in his book. He says, if you've ever wondered, why don't I do what I say I'm going to do? Why don't I lose the weight? Or why don't I stop the smoking? Or why don't I save my money for retirement or start that side business? Why do I say something's important but never seem to make time for it? The answers to those questions, this is him, can be found somewhere and these 4 laws that he writes in the book. Every goal is doomed to fail if it goes against your human nature. So you've got to make this work for you. Don't try to force yourself to exercise in ways you hate to exercise. Don't try to force yourself to eat sources of protein you hate. Find things that will work for you. Then he goes on to say, your habits are shaped by the systems in your life. An atomic habit is a little habit that's part of your system. Just like atoms are the building blocks of molecules, atomic habits, these little bitty habits, are the building blocks of remarkable results. If you want better results, he says, then forget about setting goals. Focus on your system instead. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. That's brilliant. What does he mean by that? He means you have this lofty goal to lose X amount of pounds. That may take a really, really long time. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. In other words, if you don't have a system in place for how you're going to reach that goal, you're going to fail. So when you have surgery and your goal is to lose weight and keep it off, if you don't have a system in place by which you're going to accomplish that each day, one day at a time, 12 steps, one day at a time, bariatric system, one day at a time, one eating episode at a time. What is your eating system? And then what other aspects of the bariatric process are part of your system? All right, so let me tell you what else he says. This is James Clear from Atomic Habits. Are goals completely useless, he says? Of course not. Goals are good for setting a direction. So I want to move in the direction of this weight loss. I want to move in the direction of keeping this weight off. But systems are how you're going to make progress. A handful of problems arise when you spend too much time thinking about your goals and not spending time developing your system. So I can think about, I'm going to be happy when I get to this goal weight. But if I haven't developed a system, I ain't going to get to that goal weight anyway. So if you're dreaming about what life will be like and you'll be at your happily ever after, you're setting yourself up for failure if you don't have a plan of how you're going to get there. All right, let's see what else he says. He says, think about it. Winners and losers have the same goals. If successful and unsuccessful people share the same goals, then the goal cannot be what differentiates the winners from the losers. Okay, let's put this in bariatric terminology. Everybody who has bariatric surgery or works to lose weight has the same goal. I want to get the weight off. I want to keep the weight off. Everybody has the same goals. Some people do it, some people don't. What's the difference? What leads one person to getting to their goal, not a goal weight, I'm not a numbers girl, but to the goal of living at a healthier weight and maintaining a healthier weight? Whereas another person who has those same goals doesn't get there. It's your system. James Clear says it's only when a person implements a system of continuous small improvements that they achieve a different outcome. And he gives lots of examples in real life of how this plays out. All right. He says another problem with having a goal versus a system is achieving a goal is a momentary change. Let's say you have a messy room and your goal is to clean it. So yeah, you tidy up your room and you have a clean room for now. But if you continue to be a sloppy pack rat, throw your crap in the room as you come, you're going to continue to mess up your room. But if you have a system in place, my book bag goes here, my purse goes here, my keys go here, my wallet goes here, my cell phone goes here. If you have a system, you're going to maintain a clean room, right? You've had a goal to lose weight before and you've gotten there. But if you didn't have a system that you were able to maintain, you gained the weight back. So the message here is, are you developing a system to maintain the goals you achieve, right? Or are you doing the, I want to lose weight for a wedding dress, and then you throw it all away? You have to have a system that results in steady, ongoing maintenance of your goal. All right. So he goes into a lot of other reasons goals are not nearly as efficient as systems. So he says having a systems first mentality is the solution to falling short of your goals. If you want to reach your goals, you've got to have a system. The system can be tweaked to you and your life and your schedule. It's got to have the same basic components, but you tweak it to how it's going to work in your life, given the busyness of your life, the stressors in your life, the work schedule in your life. But you've got to have a system. And for bariatric patients, there is a system. All right. So the atomic habits are the little habits, and you want to establish those, and you want to focus on your system, because without one, you're going to fall short. You're going to fail to reach your goals. All right, so let's talk about it. You've got your eating guidelines. You need to create, maybe with a mentor or a guide or a therapist or a bariatric coach, your system that you can look at every day. Now, I'm going to give you some tools to develop your system with. One is the eating schedule that comes from your bariatric dietitian, and they may be slightly different given the program you come from. Use the one your program uses. They're not that different in nature. It's on a you're eating on a schedule. You're eating protein first. You're eating limited amounts of starchy foods. You're eating limited amounts of processed foods. Always start with your protein. You have an eating system. You have an eating process. Figure out what it's going to take for you, and then make yourself a little checklist. I eat it this time, this time, this time, and this time. I eat protein first. Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. Ta-da! Success, right? And then you can feel good about that. Now, you don't have to meet it perfectly. And if it's not working, then you can go to your dietitian and say, can you help me tweak this? Something's not working. And you work on it until it does work for you. And you feel empowered and accomplished and motivated to keep it up, knowing your goals will follow. You follow your system, you're going to reach your goal. All right. Now, you also can print off a copy of the Gotta Do's. Those are the behavioral things that help you to follow through, or to do the other things, the exercise, the water, the vitamins, and you figure out how to put them into your system. There's a lot of check marks on there. Break it down to categories 4 or 5 so that you're not overwhelmed. You can also get online, look up my name, and I have a journal that will help you. It's already got checklists in there. It's got a process in there. You can tweak it for your own personal life, but you're basically being able to check things off and feel good about them. Now, here's one of the things that gets us in trouble. And this is why I created Bariatric Care, the bigger picture. Because as James Clear and other researchers will tell you and point out, your behaviors are going to follow your level of self-esteem. In other words, you can develop a system, but if you don't work on the inside of you and believe you're worth it, or believe that you have what it takes, or start to develop your self-esteem and your self-worth. If you feel like you're worthless, if you carry a great deal of shame, then your systems are going to fall apart because our behaviors are ultimately going to reflect your inner self-worth. All right. Now, you can overcome that with a system. You can fight through it. You can get people to help you, and you can overcome it. And your self-esteem will likely improve as you follow through. But if you've determined a system and you have a process, but you're not doing it, that's when you need to dig a little deeper and go, what's going on here? Because my behavior is going to line up with the ultimate way I feel about yourself. So if the way you feel about yourself is interfering with your process, you need to do a little deeper work. But there you go. So here's what I want you to take home with you today. Goals are fine. They answer the question, what do you want? Your process and your system is answering the question, how am I going to get there? And it's only by following the system on a day-to-day basis that you're going to achieve those goals. In the process, you're going to start to feel better. You're going to motivate yourself because you're accomplishing things. So this is really, really an important message. Take this seriously, get online, read about focusing on a process, having a system, how processes and systems lead you to your goals. Don't just take my word for it. Do some more research on this on your own. James Clear, Atomic Habits, really an amazing book. I think it can help every single one of us in different areas of our lives. So I would encourage you to invite others to listen to the podcast. It doesn't have to be specific to weight, because this is true. This principle of having a system in place to reach your goals applies for everything. So other people can listen to this and benefit from it as well. But until I see you again, I want you to develop your system, write it out, and then review it with some other people and ask them to help you by checking in with them and praising you and giving you affirmation and watching you affirm yourself by giving yourself praise and affirmation for the good work that you're doing. All right. So remember, this is your health we're talking about. It's your responsibility to take the skills and the tips that you learn from all the sources and implement them into your life. But I guarantee you, having a system or a process is one you will absolutely want to do if you really want to reach those goals, because the goals in and of themselves are not enough. You have to know how you're going to get those goals accomplished. All right, my friends, thank you for taking your time and joining me. And until we meet again, make it a great one.